Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Bite Size Podcast. I'm your host Clayton at ClaytSAFC on Twitter. We're here to review the big win yesterday, 3 points at Villa Park. It's back-to-back clean sheets for the Arsenal, 2-0 away from home. And listeners, I'm giving you a 5 seconds warning before I bring in my co-host Nima to lower your volume. Because Nima, I've just got one word to say. Vamos!
Vamos. Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here for my first review of the season. Huge away win. It's just dawned on me that we've conceded 3 away goals in the calendar year of 2024 and we're entering September. Unbelievable team, unbelievable manager, unbelievable supporters, including Clayton, who was away at the game. So huge kudos to you to survive the celebrations of the victory and get back down to London and be here at 10 a.m. on a bank holiday Sunday to review the 2-0 victory. I don't know what else to say apart from I'm super excited to get into this one. Like it was a serious game. It was not an easy game. That's what I'm going to say.
No, not at all. Yeah, we'll get into it. But like as an away day as well, I think those ones where you kind of winning ugly sounds harsh, but like you're up against it. And what minute did Trossard score? Was it like the 60th minute or something? Like
It was
until
late. It was late.
67th, I just checked. And like when you're getting into that period, I think especially when you've done the journey. So like I drove yesterday and I drove on my own as well. So I only met people there. So like going there, it's like quite a long drive to do on your own, right? Like 2.5 hours, 120 miles. But to be fair, I'm someone that loves my own company. So I was like just listening to Arsenal podcasts on the way. Had the radio on, Brighton beating Man United. That was good fun. But yeah, when you've done that drive and like it's a bit of a long day and you're getting into that period, and the game was so, from an emotional perspective, being in the ground was so taxing because I think it was very stop-start. It was very like I felt very anxious throughout the game, and that moment was just a huge relief. Like I've got bruises on me, like my voice is a bit coarse, but it was, yeah. And then obviously the drive back to London last night, like it could have been a 10-hour drive and I would have been over the moon. Like that was just, yeah, I was trying to find podcasts before I set off on my journey, but couldn't find anything that was like launched post game. I don't know what world I was living in, thinking, yeah, someone would have recorded and already gone live 10 minutes after kickoff. But yeah, drive back was fine. But yeah, am I tired? No, because I think I'm someone that when Arsenal wins, I just run on adrenaline. Like I woke up this morning, had a cold shower. Was that to shake off tiredness, or was I overexcited from the Arsenal yesterday? I'll let you guys decide. But yeah, great away day yesterday. I don't know if it came across on the telly, but the away end was absolutely fucking outstanding. And like Villa, their home fans, I thought they were poor. I thought they were really poor, considering that was their first home game of the season. They've obviously been doing incredibly well under Unai Emery back in the Champions League. I was so surprised by their home support, but great day, great result. Yeah, and as Uncle Mike says in the chat, it's a big fuck off away win. So on that note, let's shout out some of the guys that are in. We've got Bungle the Gooner. Good evening, chaps. Straight from Tokyo. Hope you're good, mate. Good evening. Tommy Gunn, as always, is in. Morning, everyone. And a couple more. We've got Bungle saying we are getting so much shit from other fan bases. Lovely stuff. It's interesting that because I went through a bit of a cleanse of my social media this summer, so I don't actually see that much stuff anymore. I think I'm really particular with who I follow, and even for what it's worth, like I've seen a lot of people giving shade to like the Villa fan base. I think through my cleanse, the only Villa fans I've actually interacted with and I know personally have been pretty sound about yesterday, and I'd say pretty objective. And even the few like last year, you know, when they took 6 points from us, I think I had very much like a football Twitter curated timeline, so I was like pissed off with the analysis around the two games. But having spoken to the few Villa fans I actually know and interact with, I was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I mean, you knew it anyway, but you can't let football Twitter dictate your opinion of a fan base, I guess. But yeah, Uncle Mike's back in with a boiling piss all over the gaff. Beautiful stuff. Before we get into reviewing the game, sorry, obviously there's a few of you listening, so thanks for joining us. Hit the like button if you enjoy match reviews every week, if you enjoy match previews every week. That's what we're here to do. We're two match going fans, and we're how many subs away from 250? You said this morning 3 subs, right? So
Yeah, just free subs. So if you're new to the channel, a lot of our viewers are non-subscribed, so they just find us on the feed. Please do consider subscribing and help us get to that 250 milestone. It's our 3rd season now, and we're really excited to kind of do the previews every Friday after presses, the reviews mainly on Sundays if we play on Saturday. We aim to be the first Arsenal pod that like comes out with deep analysis and review every game week going forwards this season. That's our goal. You guys can hold us accountable to it.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, like I said, we do this review every Sunday morning. And then to supplement that, we do 15 to 30-minute match previews on a Friday where we talk through predicted lineups, tactical analysis before giving score predictions. So that's the plugs done. Should we get into the game? Lineup. So the lineup that played against Aston Villa, not Wolves, as we got a typo on the screen, was
My bad.
oh, nice, all good, all good. There was just one change into the 11, so Timber came in for Zinchenko. I know we were split on that on Friday, weren't we? And I think I went Timber, you went Zinchenko, but
You got 11
yeah,
for 11, right?
yeah, my first
Yeah.
11 of the season because I cocked up against Wolves where I thought Jesus and Trossard would start. But yeah, it was Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Partey, Timber, Saka, Odegaard, Rice, Martinelli, and Havertz. I feel like when we do these reviews, sometimes we go through and we'll go through the flow of the game, we'll read through the match report and supplement it with timestamps. I feel like this is a game where there's enough player by player to go through and talk through them, like be it positives, negatives, talking points. Should we do that? Should we start back to
Yeah.
front?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been able to go through on that level. So let's do it. Do you want to start with Raya then? I guess, was
Oh,
he
you
your
set me
man of
up
the
with the
match?
open goal. Jesus Christ. I was he my man of the match? I hadn't actually considered that, to be honest. Like, because that save, oh my god, like
At
he
0-0, right?
yeah, he did something similar last week. Obviously, maybe not to the same scale as this one in terms of not importance, but manner and impressiveness. But like last week, I could see it from my seat. So I had a really nice seat yesterday. It was like upper tier, like bird's eye view, for the tactical nerdiness in me. I love that because I can see everything. And it's interesting because Saliba and Gabriel were just like statues when that happened. The ball, I think Rogers was the one that ran through, played it central to Onana, took a ricochet, took a deflection, was looping over Raya. I can't remember if he got a touch on it and it hit the bar or not, but either way, it hit the bar, came back out. And the way he just got back up and like his reflexes to save that is absolutely outstanding. And even last week, the save from the Larson header, I think I undersold that because of his reflexes. Again, he was going the other way and to shift his momentum. And it's interesting, yesterday, because I traveled on my own and at Villa, there's no designated away pubs anymore. So I just went straight into the ground yesterday. Usually I like to have a drink around, but obviously I drove yesterday. So I was like, oh, I might as well just go straight in. So I was watching the whole warm up and even the concourse in the upper tier, it's so narrow, so it's not really the best environment to get a sing-song going, like in block 6 in the North Bank. Like it's big, it's spacious, it's not quite like that. So I just went straight in yesterday and I was watching the warm-ups, and it's the first time in a few years I've actually seen the keepers warm up because I'm usually quite drunk and not in the ground until 2 minutes before kickoff. But just seeing the reflexes from them is absolutely outrageous. And you could see it in the game with that save. He was absolutely phenomenal. I don't know how he gets up in that spot. I would love someone to kind of do one of those stopwatch things where you see the time from him tipping it onto the bar to getting up and saving from Watkins. It can't have been more than 3 seconds or something ridiculous. And just while we're on him, it's everything. It's not just that one save. I feel like he's now commanding himself and the box a lot more. He feels like he looks quite big there. His ability on the ball where he'll drop in, he'll form part of a 3 and build up. But then there was another one as well where there was a period in the game where it was turning into a little bit of a basketball game and someone crossed it in from the left-hand side. I think it might have been Luca Dina, and he like pounced out to get it. He like didn't collect it cleanly at first, but he did enough to take it away from Villa play, and then straight away pounced on it again. And I thought he was absolutely exceptional. That was a long way of me trying to buy time to answer your question. Was he my man of the match? I think he was. Yeah, I think he was my man of the match.
I think he has to be just because without that save, I don't know if the game would have ended the way it did. I know we'll get to the stats later, but one of the stats I found most fascinating was looking at the Cannon stats. He has like a "did you deserve to win" stat, and for both teams, it's like they're both about 37%, something in that range, likely to win. So there's not much in it. Like really, there was not much in it. And last season, we lamented missing our chances, and we said that we had like a better XG. The underlying numbers were in our favor, yet we lost those games. It's almost like we went and did to them what they did to us, because they actually had a higher XG than us in this game. I know a lot of it was the huge miss from Watkins. Like that was huge. Not the header, the one in the first half I'm talking about. That was a huge miss as well. So I think there was a few moments where it was a bit cagey, but I felt like it was just because of the quality of the opposition. Whereas historically, when we've kind of had those scrappy moments, like against Wolves for 10, 15 minutes, we were misplacing passes. I thought we didn't look good rather than the team that we were facing was good. With Villa, I genuinely felt, you know what? This is turning into a tasty rivalry over these years. Like, we're actually both quite good teams. And if they play the way they did against us, hopefully they can get some points off City for us this season too.
Yeah, I hope so. And yeah, well said. Like, I thought Villa were outstanding yesterday. Like, there were periods where off the ball, it just felt like the Spider-Man meme, where it was just like carbon copy. It was just 2-4-4-2s. Like, the spacing was incredible. I reckon from centre back to centre forward, both teams in periods, it was like the most disgusting mid blocks I've ever seen. It was like maybe 10, 15, 20 yards from centre back to centre forward. The way both teams were able to keep the middle of the pitch compact, and the lining height between each line, I thought it was really good. And yeah, Villa, I thought were outstanding. I tweeted last night, I don't think there's many teams that would have come out of that game had it played out that way tactically with 3 points. I think the only other team that is capable of doing that in this league under those circumstances is Man City. So this for me, like, I know I'm going to come up with an annoying cliche now, but like it was a champion's performance. It was effective. It was professional. Sure, we rode our luck in a couple of moments, but I find the analysis around things interesting, because last season I don't remember the general masses being like, oh, Arsenal were unlucky. I remember people being like, they were wasteful. They just need to be clinical. And I said the same for what it's worth. I said, you can't win games on XG. Like, it's encouraging that we created the chances in those games, but putting the ball in the back of the net is part of football. So if I was saying that last season for the 2 defeats, got to say it this season, Villa missed their chances. And sure, it could have gone different on another day, but it didn't. They wasted their chances. We took ours. And I think more importantly, under those moments of stress, we didn't collapse. That's the thing. We gave ourselves the ability and opportunity to get back into the game. I think there's periods like there where Watkins has his chance, where, well, both chances, where you can get a little bit jaded almost, and like, yeah, like rustled and rattled, but we didn't. So yeah, really, really professional performance. But I thought, yeah, Villa were good. Going through the lineup then, Ben White, I'll let you take this one away.
Yeah, so the only moment I really remember is him standing up for his buddy Saliba. So
Yeah,
just obviously seeing Saliba get the ball smacked into his stomach while he was on the ground. Next thing you know, Ben White just leathers it at the opponent straight into, was it McGinn, I think, I want to say?
couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke. Honestly, like, John McGinn, I've got to be very careful with my words here. He is just one of the biggest cowards I think I've seen in the top flight of Premier League football. He's just someone that is technically out of his depth. Sure, he works hard, fair play, like he puts in a shift, but when I say coward, there's people that go onto a football pitch with the intention to harm, and I think he's one of them. He left one in on Saka, which I have no idea how he didn't get a yellow card for.
Hmm.
Like, don't even get me started on refereeing yesterday. But John McGinn, I just think he is a talentless coward. And yeah, even like he knew what he was doing on Saliba and Ben White. That's the only moment I really have from him as well. But it was a heck of a good one, and it summed him up. And yeah, good for him. Just on
By
tap.
the way,
I'm
one
sorry,
thing I
go on, go for
should
it.
add for the video viewers is I'm sure that this FOTMob lineup is actually like season long ratings. So these are not ratings for this fixture. I think they're ratings for this season in total. So I would just not listen to them and ignore these stats. Basically, we always say the FOTMob ratings don't really necessarily relate to what we actually saw, right?
Yeah, exactly. We only use them just because it's a nice visual to show the team that played. That's all. We tend to ignore the numbers on the screen, but look
So
at
on
the.
that note, they have us in a 3-2-4-1, which is quite interesting. They actually have if anyone listening on podcast, they have White, Saliba, Gabriel in that back line. They then have kind of Timber as, I guess, an inverted fullback. So he's actually as a second pivot next to Partey. You then have kind of Rice and Odegaard playing quite advanced with Saka, Martinelli. Do you feel that this is how we actually lined up? Or like, what do you think? Because I felt that out of possession, Timber was maybe like a better left back than Zinchenko could dream of defensively. But in possession, he was also showing up in these midfield places. So, like, what do you think? Because I read something I think someone was saying in the warm up, they noticed we was training with both fullbacks inverted at the same time. Did you spot that when you were in the stadium, or were you in the concourse at the time? Like, just
No, so
what
to be
like, did you think we did something new? I guess is my question, because this is the first part Timbers had in like a year properly.
So to be fair, I wasn't in the concourse, but I didn't spot that in the warm up. But like, there's so many different drills going on. I probably just wasn't watching that bit. But no, I don't think we did anything new. I think it was the same thing we've been used to. We just saw a little bit more fluidity throughout the 90 minutes. I think there were some periods where out of possession, yeah, Timber was a traditional fullback. There were some periods in possession, sorry, where he joined part of a two, and it was a Party Timber double pivot. The one thing I would say that tactically was maybe different, but it's not something we haven't seen before. It was just different to last week. Was White was a lot more conservative, so it was a lot more of a traditional 3-2 in there. But in possession, I think it was exactly what we'd see. I think the only thing that was different was Timber didn't get on the ball as much as we're used to with Zinchenko doing it. And even White last season, that period where he would tuck in from the right and Kivior would form that kind of left centre back. White got on the ball quite a lot. So I think Timber was used more as like a decoy, I think. I think he was in there to not really progress the ball into him, but almost what I said on the preview. I think I was expecting Villa to form that box, right, of Onana, Tielemans, McGinn, and Rodgers, and they did absolutely that in periods. And they were Rodgers in particular, the way he pressed from the front. Him and Watkins were, well, Villa out of possession were a 4-4-2, and sometimes Bailey would tuck in narrow, and it would be like a 3 pressing from the front. And they were really trying to block off the access to Partey. So I think that's where Timber was used as more of a facilitator, not trying to progress through him, but more use him as a decoy to free up Partey. So no, I don't think it was anything new. I think there were periods where it was this 3-2 and Rice and Odegaard were really high and aggressive, but there were also periods where, like you said, Timber was more of a traditional fullback. Rice would drop in and it looks like a 4-3-3. So I think it's what Arteta said sarcastically last season, maybe, where like there's sometimes 50 different combinations going on in formations, right? So yeah, don't get too wedded to it. But overall, yeah, out of possession, we defend in a 4-4-2. In possession, we sometimes have a 3-2. We sometimes have a 2-3. Sometimes the eights are pinned high and wide, and sometimes they drop in all phases, like Odegaard does as well. So it's just a really nice, fluid team. But yeah.
No, I think that 4-4-2, yeah, I did notice the kind of out of possession Odegaard and Havertz leading that press, but we'll talk more tactically later. But yeah, I just wanted to say Villa's press was disgusting too. They definitely changed something, and I think Arteta said that they did something we weren't expecting, or they slightly, tweaked something.
Did he
And I
say
think,
what it was? Because I've not had a chance to listen to any of Arteta's quotes or anything.
yeah, so he just kind of said that it wasn't what we prepared for in a way. Like there was just some slight like nuances in what they did, and then I saw someone kind of suggesting like, was it because they'd gone back like 10 yards, so they were actually sitting a bit deeper than when we last played them at their stadium. So there was just a few tactical tweaks they made, and I think if you look at it, so it was James Benge on Twitter. He said, so Arteta said today Villa did something a bit different to what we expected, especially in the first phase of our build-up. So then James Benge said, I suspect this is related to Villa's defensive line, which seemed notably deeper than the same game last season, especially after Cash came off early. Arsenal had a level of unpressured possession that I don't remember from back in December. So and then I watched a few clips after that, and I did notice there was periods where they let our defenders in that first phase build-up just kind of have the ball without pressing them. But then the midfielders, wherever Timber was standing, or if Partey was waiting, there was no lines to them. Like we just couldn't. So we were just kind of recycling it around the back ourselves, and but they weren't pressing us. It's like they were just closing out the lines and sitting a bit deeper. So that was
Yeah.
something I hadn't noticed. I don't know how it felt from your bird's eye view of the stadium. If just to touch on that, and then I promise we'll go back to the players.
No, it's a really good point. And I think this is where sometimes, even though I had a great view, away games just bring out the biggest emotional side of me. So that's something that, did I notice it in the game? Yeah, but it almost didn't register until you just said it now, and it's with hindsight. Oh shit, yeah, Villa usually press us high and aggressive, and they actually let us have the ball. But it's a really good point, because even though they let us have the ball, I think there were a couple of trigger points where they would just pounce. So, like, we'll touch on him in a couple of players' time. But when Gabriel gave the ball away, it's almost like when they smelled blood, they went for it. So I think maybe that was the change. And yeah, it's a really good point that you make, because I wouldn't have brought it up
Good
otherwise.
point.
But
They did still press. You are right. So I saw one where, like, on the wing, I think one of the players on their team pressed to try and get a loose ball, and out of nowhere, suddenly 3 players just
pack of
arrive in
hyenas.
our third. Yeah, it's like you see the first guy go, and then 4 follow. So it just seemed like they did have, and I think that kind of left us a bit uncertain. Like we were almost, it was like a chess match. We were trying to figure out that, okay, so we prepared to unlock them in one way, but now we're gonna have to find a new way. So it's like we were trying to get into that rhythm, and I think that's where, like, that's why I gave Raya, for me, my man of the match, because without that save, we may not have had the time to figure that out.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm really glad you brought up that point, because I thought we adapted to that very well. Like, I know in the away end there were a lot of people that were getting impatient, like the classic, just play it forward, like hurry up, this and that. I thought we slowed it down and were so patient to our benefit, because I think Villa were waiting for a mistake and we were waiting for them to make a mistake positionally. And there were a couple of times where, with that 3-2, like you say, it was a chess match. And then we were able to just be patient, side to side, and then bang, into Party, into Timber, and then we'll go. And like, it didn't happen consistently, but we did make it happen. So I thought we were incredibly professional in how we dealt with that. We didn't force anything. We didn't fall into the trap of trying to just ping it long and then lose the ball and Villa regain it. I thought we were really patient with that. And
I think that's credit to Morgan Rogers, though, because I feel that he was the biggest threat in the game, and we
big time
did quite well, right, to like generally kind of keep him quiet. But the moments he did get on the ball, they were frightening. The way he carried that ball, I was in shock. I said in the preview that he was the one I was looking out for, just because I have him in my fantasy Premier League team. But he looks like someone I'm going to keep for a long time at 5 million in the game. Let's go to our defenders then. So we talked about White, we talked about Raya. Let's talk about the rest of the back line. Any thoughts on the celebrations from Saliba, that run, that crazy defensive move he made? It's like superhuman out here.
What a performance from him. So in the preview, I predicted a draw, right? And do you remember one of the reasons I said that was I thought Villa would come out and press us aggressively, but more consistently than they did. And last week against Wolves, we saw some rustiness. We saw Saliba underhit and misplace a couple of passes. We saw Party in the second half fade away. We saw Rice cramp up. When the hell do we ever see that? And Saliba yesterday, I just thought was outstanding. And again, we spoke a few seconds ago about the patience, right? He was central to that. He was the central centre back, and he didn't force anything. He just side to side, back and forth, and that's fine. I think there are games to do the cliches, play forward, play aggressive, and there's games to just keep your head intact and keep measured, keep controlled. And that's why I say it was such a professional performance. We rode our luck, but then we didn't wobble. We kept our maturity. We stayed in it, and then we got the goal. We were clinical, and he was central to that. He was so good. And I don't know if like he just went up a level after the McGinn thing. I don't know if that's a narrative I'm trying to force, but he was absolutely outstanding. And then was it at 2-0 where he made that recovery run to tackle Jacob Ramsey?
It was at 2-0, and they celebrated it like a goal, right? Like him, Raya, Partey. You see them all together, Ben White. Like, it's just, I love to see that. I love to see that. One thing I did see, a funny tweet on the timeline, let us know in the chat if you agree, was someone was like, please just, like, yes, we want you to play like at a world-class level, but don't draw the attention of Perez from Real Madrid too much yet, bro. Like, give us some years. Like, stop drawing attention from these giants out there.
Unfortunately, I do think that that interest is going to come in very soon.
Yeah, but I think hopefully we'll be in the good position of being able to bat it off because he sees his future here, at least for the medium term. But I have no doubt that one day in his career he may end up in a club like Madrid. Let's just hope he's won it all with us first. Gabriel. So I don't want to talk too much about him because there's actually a whole slide about the ball progression by
Okay.
pass and carry, and he actually comes out as the leader for both in the entire match. So we'll talk more about him tactically then. But just something I thought was that I know last season we sometimes felt that maybe he didn't like make those kind of line breaking passes as often. I do wonder if something's changed because he seems to take a bit more ownership of getting that ball forward, and he's finding his man on the left wing a lot more and finding space. So I just feel like something's changed in him. And I guess I don't know if now's a good time to show the ball progression or just save it for when we
Go
get
for
to
it.
that.
Whatever you
Yeah.
fancy.
Because I think if we see the ball progression on screen, I think it's
Because
a
I've got
nice.
a very strong thought on why that is. I think it's simple. I think we lacked that through Zinchenko, and Gabriel took the onus, and Timber didn't get on the ball as much. Like that's what I want to see. I've not actually seen the graphs, but I reckon Timber's very low on progression through passing and carrying. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah. So
think
let me just find. Oh, here it
so.
is.
There
Okay,
it is.
perfect.
So yeah, you're right, Gabriel. So for the audio listeners, Gabriel is sorry, we've got a graphic on screen which is ball progression, and it's got x-axis and a y-axis. One axis is via passing and one is via carrying, and this is credit to Mark, our StatsBot, always using his and Scott Willis's stuff on this pod. But it's just something that brings a nice visual illustration to something that we tried to talk through. So go on, you wanted to make the point. Do you want to talk through?
Yeah, so it's just here, like it shows that obviously his progression via passes was like 5, which be- below that is like 3.5 from Saliba, Rice, White, Party, Odegaard's under 3, Saka's under 2. Then we have the progression via carry, and he's up there by 2 as well. Odegaard kind of near him, and everyone else kind of 1.5. It just, I don't think maybe last season we saw this once, maybe twice. So it just seems unusual that away at Villa in such a tough tactical setup, it seems that he's the one doing that, whereas you would expect it to be Saliba progressing the ball. So I just
Yeah,
want
so
to point that one out because I don't see that often, and that's why I wanted to bring it up because I wanted to ask you, like, did you feel anything different, like just watching it? Because I know when I watch it on TV, right, I watch the whole game, but it's not the same. Like the camera doesn't even show you what people off the screen are doing, right? Like I can only see where the ball is. I don't know what Gabriel's doing if he's not on camera. So I wonder if you saw a bit more. Like, what did you think of his performance, seeing him live?
so it wasn't more him individually. For me, it was the knock on of Zinchenko, and I think we lacked a lot of what Zinchenko brings on the ball. I'm not saying like it was the correct decision because we saw the couple of 1v1s of Timber versus Bailey. Timber looked like he could hold his own, and Timber on the ball was fine. But if you look at the same graphic, I can't see Timber. Like he's nowhere to be seen on this. He's in
Yeah,
the
he's
bot.
right in the bottom left corner with Trossard and
Yeah, and so even
yeah,
that, like
yeah.
the data marries up with what I felt watching the game, where Timber wasn't actually getting on the ball as much. He was more there as like a decoy to kind of positionally take people away and create space for a party to kind of progress through the ball. So for me, this wasn't anything new. It was more just for a one-off game where we didn't have Zinchenko. Gabriel occupies the space that is closest to where Zinchenko would, even though it's a line lower, and he just took on that mantle. So even that, like the progression via passing, like I wouldn't say it was like exceptional line breaking passing. I think it just happened to be he was the one that picked up the ball from like left centre back area a lot, and Party happened to be the option open to him and Timber open to him. So he was the one that had most of the ball to be able to progress it forwards. And yeah, Saliba is there as well with only what, like I know visually it looks like Gabriel's miles away, but it's only 1.5 pass
Yeah, I was gonna say
extra,
it's a
really.
small, yeah, it's a small
Yeah.
number, really.
So
It's just interesting to see him there because I thought that was a bit different from what we've seen historically. But maybe the Zinchenko not being a nailed starter this season might change things a bit. So yeah, let's see how
possibly.
that unfolds with the
But
likes of
even that,
Timber and
how
Kiwior.
great is that, right? Like, I don't know about you, but when the lineup came out, even though I predicted a draw, I just felt there's no weak link here. Like with Zinchenko, let's be honest, like even though I think the defensive stuff is a bit overstated on him, we all think, okay, who's the right winger there? Every single week we go through that proactive analysis, don't we? Who's the right winger up against Zinchenko? I don't know about you. I didn't once think about that yesterday. Like, even though we know how talented Bailey is, I just thought, oh, Timber's a great 1v1 defender.
And I think, like, obviously, I saw some people saying that, like, they weren't that impressed by Timber. He had an okay performance. I think that's underselling it a bit. Like, you're away at maybe one of the, I'd say currently this season, one of the 5 hardest away grounds in the league.
Easy. Easily,
Easy,
yeah.
right? And, it's one of his first starts after so long. And he did what we needed, right? He helped
Yeah.
protect that clean sheet. Like, ultimately, like, we didn't feel the fears we would have felt Leon Bailey running at Zinchenko. So, yeah, I'm glad he was fit enough to start this game. So we talked about the back line. I think
The
if we
one
go
thing
into,
we haven't
yeah,
spoken about, which, like, obviously not to bring shit to a great win, but Gabriel had us with our heart in our mouth, right? That error where
yeah.
would you say that was a foul, or do you think we got away with one there?
Mm,
So for anyone that's unaware, I'm talking about when we were passing it around the back, Gabriel turned his back onto a Bailey or a Rogers, I think, and they nicked the ball off him, ran through, and then Rogers played it into Watkins, who missed a
yeah, that
one-on-one.
was
But
pretty wild. Like, I think 90 times out of 100, that results in a goal. I think we were very fortunate that Watkins missed that chance. But yeah, the way it was frightening. The way they were in the box ready for the shot from that mistake, it was just like we were almost immediately punished. So that was a worrying moment. I think we got away with it, and the team fights with each other, right? Like they fight together. I mean, like so, one person makes a mistake, the others come and they're leaders and they shout at each other and make sure to wake each other up a little bit. So I think that kind of moment was just a warning sign of if we don't get our shit together, like what could happen.
yeah,
It gave me a bit of PTSD, that's for sure, from a previous season and the 6 points they took from us. But yeah, apart from that, I think when when you put it into the kind of framework that he was trying to progress the ball so much more, maybe that's partly the contributing factor. Um,
yeah.
but
Just
yeah, let's
one
go to any other things on the defense.
Just one more on Timber before we get into midfield. I agree. Like, I'm glad you said that because I've seen a lot of people quite harsh on him, and it's his first start, like you said, since literally Nottingham Forest at home, which was probably 365 days ago. So no dramas. Just some constructive criticism. I do think he could have improved some of his positioning and his angles. I feel like he almost blocked himself off from being an option sometimes, but that's nitpicking, but just something to keep an eye on, I guess. But yeah, I
Yes.
do think we really lacked Zinchenko's on the ball ability in this game. But would it have been a net positive with what we would have had to encounter defensively? I don't know. But we got a clean sheet, so no dramas. Thomas
Exactly.
Partey, he got the goal that made me take a deep breath and say, okay, the game is done. And he went and shouted "Vamos" to the cameras. What did you think of his performance?
So what I will say, I don't want to be harsh on him.
No, no, go for it.
On
I think the best thing is just always be honest. Like, there's a
Okay.
difference between, I think, trying to, you know what Arsenal Twitter does sometimes in terms of laying in for clicks and this and that. I think we've always just said, like, let's just be honest about what we feel and think, right?
Yeah, true. So last week I said something about a regression. You said, maybe just rust. You don't want to jump to regression straight away. Um, I think there was a bit of both. So I regret saying the word regression, but equally, I think that it is naturally coming with age at some point for him. So I thought that in this game on the ball, I saw the Thomas Partey I expect. So that Russ was shaken. Like the Thomas Partey on the ball, that finding his players, the shot as well, obviously a bit fortunate to go in. If I was a
Thanks, Martinez.
goalkeeper, yeah, if I was a goalkeeper in the Premier League, I'd be
Did you hear
expecting
the
my
away
son to
end?
dig
We
that.
mate, we were giving Martinez some like it was sarcastic. Oh, Emi Martinez, too shit for Arsenal. Like, it was so good.
That's so good. Yeah, so I do feel that was a bit fortunate, but overall, I was very happy with what I saw on the ball from him. However, out of possession, I still felt the regression comment from last week still kind of struck a chord with me because I think he still gave away possession. I think he's a bit slow, like defensively, compared to the Partey I remember, like who was a bit like I thought he was a top 2, top 3 centre mid in the world at the time when he came. So I don't think he's that Partey anymore. I think he'll play an important role in this squad, and I hope he does stay fit because we know what he's like. And I hope he can, be there for the depth we need across all the matches. After this first international break in September, I think we've got a game like every 3 days till Christmas, basically, or for the rest of the season. So we need him, but it reminded me that, well, I really want Mikel Merino to get into this team ASAP because I feel he has like qualities of all the players who play there for us. He has some of Jorginho's passing. He has some of Partey's aggression that he's maybe lost. He has some of Rice's defensive ability and carrying ability, but he's like a better finisher, I think, or got better availability for that pass in the final third. So I just feel Mikel Merino's got this like weird mix of all the good parts of these other three midfielders we have. And everyone's going on about like, oh, you guys have paid 28 million pounds for him, that you're paying like 7 mil a year for 4 years. And it's crazy because he only had 1 year left and he's old and he's retired. He's the same fucking age as Rodri. I don't see no one talking about Rodri's time is over. I see them talking about Man City need him to win. So I don't get it. Like that, I just wanted to put that out there. I know we've been buying a lot of young players recently, and that's kind of the squad we're building. But look at Trossard. When we get to the attackers and we talk about them, he put this game on his head. Trossard's clinical first touch is what led to us even going ahead. So Raya's save and Trossard's goal, that's what took us to kind of carry ourselves over the line, really. Partey kind of secured it, sure. But ultimately, what I'm getting at is that I just think people are not understanding that we are getting a midfielder who has all the qualities of all our other midfielders and is actually going to be fantastic for us. Like, he is going to unlock so many ways for us to play, so many different variations of the three-man midfield with him in it or not in it. There's just so much excitement for me. So I'm really keen to see him. And I just wanted to put that out there because talking about Partey's regression, my hope is that now we have Merino, we don't need to play him every game. So therefore, when we do need Partey, he is going to start.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And just to supplement one other thing, because I agree with everything you said on Merino, and I'm so excited for him. It also, I think, probably most importantly, there's still a pathway for Waneri there, right? Like we see, he was in the matchday squad again. Vieira's gone out on loan. I think it's so clear how highly thought of he is. And Merino gives us the ability to still... People talk about Merino, like you say, like he's about to retire. Like, we're gonna get a good 3 years at the top level out of him. And along the journey, let's just talk about this season because we don't know what the landscape will look like beyond that. But this season, we've now got the ability to, in some games, play Partey or Jorginho as a 6 with Rice at 8. We've now got the ability to play Rice at 6 with a Merino left there. We can play any one of Rice, Partey, Jorginho at 6 with Merino 8. Merino can even play as a 6, by the way. So it's just such a smart... I can't remember if I said this on this pod or the Planet FPL one, but it's just such an effective signing, in my opinion. It's not a sexy one, but I think he might end up being one of the most important signings in this squad when you look at what he unlocks. It's almost like the Thanos in Avengers, where you just had like the final Infinity Stone. Like, I'm not saying Marino's end game, but just more what...
Yeah. I think we need the winger or attacker, but yeah, I know what you mean. He's close to the end game. He's that final. He's almost the final Infinity Stone.
He is someone that I think has more of a domino effect all over the pitch than any other signing, in my opinion. But yeah, that's one. As Arteta says, we can't talk about players that are not Arsenal players.
That's true. Yeah, that is very true. So what about so who else do you want to talk about? Rice, I guess.
Oh well, I'd like to give my 2 pence on Partey as well. Just
go for it.
I thought it was good, and like it's good you made the distinction of on the ball, off the ball, because on the ball, I think he's so brave in the way he makes himself available. Like, he's so selfless. He doesn't care if it's... There's suicide passes you can get in the positions he takes up, but he just takes it and the ball sticks with him and he turns and he sees pictures. And I don't think that there's many players that are as brave as him in terms of the position they put themselves in to receive the ball. He is so brave. I honestly don't think there's anyone else in world football that takes up the positions he does. Like I said earlier, we were having to be very patient with how we were progressing the ball into him, and I think we did well there. But off the ball, I want to stick up for him a little bit. I don't even think Declan Rice could have dealt with Rodgers yesterday. Rodgers spun him inside out 3 times. Rice positionally, we'll talk about in a bit. I don't like him at left 8. I think he only suits left 8 when the game opens up and it's a transition game. And let's be real, the game only really opened up after after the goal in the 67th minute. So I thought it was another game that passed Declan Rice by at left 8, in my opinion. It's the second game of the season, so I'm not going to go overboard on that. But I thought Partey was very good, and even positionally, there's things that would have gone unnoticed in the game. Like there are a couple of times in the first half where he covered people, and I think like as a 6, that is one of the most underrated things. Where White would go and he would slot in at right back, and he won the ball there. There was something where I made a note on this in the first half. You know when Saka had that chance where like he cut in, did the shot, and it was a great save from Martinez. Thomas Partey was the one that recovered the ball for that and set it up. And I think these are the things that go unnoticed by people. Like a lot of people focus on the key actions where it was like, yeah, fuck, we can see a Rodgers dribbling past him, running in behind. I don't even think a Declan Rice could have dealt with that. I think sometimes we just have to say a player like a Morgan Rodgers, I think, is destined for greatness. And there's not many people that are actually capable of stopping him when he's in that flow mode. Like Rice, I didn't think got close to him enough. So I thought
Fair. So
Partey.
maybe, yeah, fair. So maybe I've tried to use statistics too much. You've actually looked at the fact that Partey was tasked with dealing with Rodgers,
No,
hence
no, no.
those problems.
I agree with like
But as in the stats I'm
Partey didn't
talking
win.
about were like bad. Like I'm talking like my guy like failed. Like he, I think it was something like it was something he did. It was either he got challenged or his passes, but he like lost it. He only
He,
completed 2 out of 9 of his like one of. I was remember looking at the stat and I was like, what? Like 2 out of 9, and then I looked at Rice and it was like he only lost it once, and I was like, so Partey lost it 7 times and Rice lost it once. But maybe it's because they were doing such different things, right?
yeah,
Rice was kind of
exactly.
playing further up the pitch, whereas Partey was told like you need to protect your back line.
Yeah, exactly. When Rice had the ball, he had no one around him, had all the time in the world to play in a Martinelli, which he did quite nicely to play it out. When Partey has a ball, he's got about 3, 4 people on him. So I think it's applying that context to him. And I just thought he was very good yesterday, and a big reason why we actually came away with 3 points, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'll take that. Fair enough. So just, I think it naturally segues to Declan Rice. You mentioned that as the left eight. I do think that we're going to see him more as the 6 with Marino here as the left eight, ideally. But there will be games where he plays left eight. There'll be games where Havertz plays left eight, I'm sure. Like maybe not with Jesus'
I'm
current
not so
injury.
sure
That's
about that anymore. Yeah, I was just going to say with
yeah, I
the
was going to say that's
Jesus
something
injury.
we've not discussed. But they say we should know about the MRI on Monday, the MRI scan. We'll know whether it's days or weeks. Some people are fear mongering and saying it's months, but we've not heard that. So I would say just stop being so negative. At least this happened before the transfer window closed. Imagine this happened the day after the transfer window closed next Friday. At least we know now. The club know. Arteta in his post-match conference, he did say we are light in the front of the field. He literally said that in
Well,
relation
you
to
can
the
see our
Jesus injury.
bench, right? Like, other than Trossard, I don't know about you, but when I was looking at the bench with half hour to go, thinking we need something from here, I wasn't looking at Nelson and Nketiah with like, oh yay, woohoo. But I think we'll get something done.
I think someone's coming, and I think this Jesus injury and the how bad it is will have an impact on that. I was hoping to see a lot of Jesus this season across all the different games we have. So fingers crossed it's minor, but this just kind of it is very frustrating. I could see fans are very frustrated with him. I think you need to stop getting frustrated at players and individuals and humans. You can't be angry. I can't be angry as much as I want to at a player whose body has failed them. Do you not think he's fucking depressed? Like
Yeah.
he's not happy about it. He wants to play. Um, the reason I say this is if you want to be upset at anyone, don't take out the anger on the individual, the player. Think to yourself, okay, well, I'm gonna be frustrated at the club for relying on him, for seeing that year
Yeah,
after year this happens. So it's
that's a
kind of
good
like
point.
you should be more frustrated at like not an individual, not the manager, not Edu, not the fucking player, but just as a club, maybe the club and people should be talking and saying, you know what? We can't be going into next season, not this year, next season, and again saying, oh, yeah, we're going to rely on him to be the depth we need across the front three. Like, okay, maybe it's not that serious now. Maybe we get what we want from him this year. But it's the same with Thomas Partey. I finally feel by buying Marino, they're like, okay, we're not just going to be reliant on him staying fit. That's what I want to see more of. Like Tomiyasu, we brought in Calafiori. So again, I'm like, let's just stop relying on these guys who just do not have the availability of an Odegaard or a Rice or a Saka, where they literally play every minute of every game of the entire season. Not every player is like that. It's very rare. So don't be frustrated at the individual whose body broke down. Be frustrated at the club for relying on those individuals, like we did on Kieran Tierney multiple times, and he collapsed at the exact times when we needed to push on and get top four or win the Europa League, whatever, and it didn't happen, right? I think we're just frustrated because as a team, Arsenal have historically relied on players who aren't available a lot.
Yeah, and I think the frustration is also, like you say, he would have had a big part to play this year. He looked sharp, didn't he, when in the preseason game against Leverkusen and general preseason, he looked very sharp. And I think we all saw a more similar 22-23 Jesus than we did last season in preseason. So I think that's where probably the frustration comes from. But yeah, we get the results tomorrow on Monday, so fingers crossed we'll find out soon. But let's whistle through the final few. So yeah, Declan Rice. I'll be honest, yeah, like I said, I'm not in love with him at the left 8. I think there are only certain game states that suit him there, whereas I think at 6 he is just him. It would be interesting to have seen if he's like, I know we didn't have a suitable left 8 for this game other than Rice, but this what we were both saying, we wish Marino came in for this game, right? Because as well as I think Partey did in this game, I think this was Rice at 6. Like, I don't think Rodgers would be charging through if Rice was at the base there. I think Onana had a good game actually for Villa. He was very good, but yeah, I think this was more suited to a Rice 6 game, but didn't have a left 8 alternative. But I thought his positioning off the ball wasn't great. I thought he was too far from Partey and left Partey on an island almost too much. Whether that's by instruction, I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't think he was great, to be honest, Rice. There were a couple of times where he played in Martinelli nicely, but for me, he only really came into the game once we went 1-0 up, and yeah, I thought it was an okay performance. That was it. Anything from you on him?
Yeah, I don't really want to add anything on him. What I will say is I do like that he takes those left-sided corners now. So I like he's taking up more responsibility in terms of the attacking side. But, long term, my question is, do you think that, like, so some people are trying to blame us for like buying players and then playing them in a different position than we bought them for? So they're like, oh, we bought White as a centre back, but we play him as a right back. Oh, we bought Rice as a 6, but we play him as an 8. Oh, we bought Havertz as an 8, but we play him as a 9. Like, I don't get that debate, because did we not deliberately buy versatile players so we can unlock multiple ways of playing and being more
Yeah, for
unpredictable?
what it's worth, I've not seen any of that sort of stuff.
I guess you said your timeline's a bit more cleansed than mine.
My
I follow
timeline's a
4,000
lot
people,
nicer
bro.
than yours. Yeah.
I follow nearly 4,000 people. My timeline's just like God knows what it is, but it's not one for your sanity, that's for sure. Thank you everyone who's tuned in live, by the way. We are going to do some cool looking at the passing networks in a moment, and some great graphics we have for that. And we'll kind of continue with that and take any Q&A. So if you have questions, we always answer them at the end. We've started a few comments to shout out everyone. Please do send your questions in, and we'll do some questions after that. I think for now, we'll keep talking about the attackers. So what, Saka, Martinelli, Havertz, and then obviously the subs. But I think we'll go a bit quick fire here so we can get to the rest of the stuff.
Go on, yeah. So to keep it quick fire, let's go Odegaard next. I thought he was quiet. I thought in periods he mesmerizing on the ball, his close control, his combination play and stuff. But overall, I think Villa did a very good job at nullifying the access to him. And yeah, like there's no dramas there. It was
I think my only thing was he could have obviously put it to 3-0 right at the end. He had a chance to take us to 3-0, right? And I think he was leaning back as he took the shot a bit, and I think he got it over the bar. But yeah, I think that he probably frustrated himself with that. But what can you do? Like, at least it didn't cost us anything, right? But yeah, that's a bit like last year. I would expect that's the kind of positions he was scoring from, right? So I don't know. Maybe he was just under a lot of pressure, and he didn't quite.
I think it was like the speed the ball came at, the speed he was running at, and he had two players sliding, and then I think he leant back a slight amount. Yeah, the ball went flying. But despite me saying I think he was relatively quiet, he had a big part to play in kind of the goals, right? So that's probably a nice segue into Saka, because Odegaard combined with Saka on the right. He played him in. I think it was Odegaard that played Saka in. But then I thought the ball was going out, and Dino was holding on to Saka. I was really holding his shirt, and the determination from Saka to get to that byline and still get the cross in. And then the irony is, as someone as good as Morgan Rogers was, he was the one that kind of flicked it into Trossard's path, but Trossard got the goal. But yeah, I thought Saka was outstanding. I spoke about McGinn leaving one on him. Onana did one as well. And okay, Onana got booked, but that was a disgusting tackle as well. Like, I don't know if you remember it clearly, but Saka was running clear. Like, there was lots of green space to run into, and Onana came and just kind of scissor kicked him. Like, was nowhere near the ball. And he's so durable. We all worry, but I don't know how he does it. And another outstanding performance from him, another goal contribution from him, like that save from Martinez. Don't know how he saved that. Fair play, great save. Fantastic from Saka, so good.
I just think he's like our most important player, and I don't think people respect him enough in the fan base itself. Like last year, like I know Odegaard was, but as in like Odegaard was in the player of the season conversation, right? I know Saka was in the young player of the season conversation, but like if you ask me, I think Saka's our most important and best player. Like everything is built around him. Like he is the owner
wins
of
for
this
him
team.
as well. At 22 years old, 100
so actually,
wins.
yeah. You know what? You know I love my stats like that.
You do love a stat. Go on. I'm surprised I had to say that one.
Yeah. So let me see. I took some photos. So this one specifically I really like because essentially Saka's now become the third youngest player to the 100 in the league history ever. So that's just disgusting. He's the young, so to 100 wins, yeah. So it's youngest players to reach 100 wins. Wayne Rooney, 22 years and 86 days. Cesc Fabregas, 22 years, 108 days. Bukayo Saka, 22 years, 354 days. You're gonna love this one. So what was it? 22 years and 354 days, yeah, for 100 wins. Phil Foden, 22 years, 358 days.
I think the most impressive thing for me there is, though, like the teams that Rooney and Fabregas and Foden have played in. Saka came into a very mid-table Arsenal team, and he's
as a left back.
And he's been such an ever-present in developing year on year. And I think even more impressive, like you see, he came in the team at the same time as a Smith Rowe. Like, it wasn't the same time, but we've seen Iwobi come into the team before. We've seen other players, and he's just outlasted everyone and year on year improved. Whereas we've outgrown other people in that same period of time. And Martinelli's someone that I think we'll be having a conversation about soon. Like,
he's the next person on the list.
Go on. Yeah. What did you think of him?
So I think Saka we've praised. So I think he goes without saying. He also had a couple of chances to put the goals in. I did like that he was subbed. So obviously he gets kicked a lot. And that's 2 games in a row now where he's actually been the guy we're subbing and we're leaving other players on. So, you know, that was unheard of before. Like, it's just like, I know we want someone who can cover that right wing. I think we want an exciting winger. We'll talk about the transfer window at the end, but obviously there's a lot of talks of Nico Williams. There's talks of Rafinha from Barcelona. There's a lot of talks about wingers, right? Other young wingers, Bakayoko, lots of them. You know, Neto went to Chelsea. You know, he was someone we were chasing. I think it depends on Jesus, really, like what we do. But I think a versatile winger who can force his way into the 11 or fight the other wingers, but also be ample backup for Saka to give him some games where he doesn't start. I think last season we were very fortunate that players like Saliba and Saka kind of played pretty much every game. This year, I'd love to see like a game where like we have Timber right centre back, Calafiori left centre back, and like whoever this mystery winger signing is if they come at right wing. I just want to see us use the team more is my main thing. And here as well, Troy Arsenal, FC Mitchell, thanks for tuning in, buddy. They say need another attacker, right wing preferably. So I think we definitely need an attacker. You know, Nelson's come on and done that job as the kind of understudy for now. I don't think we're going to move Nelson on in time or find anyone. I think Eddie's the main guy out, and even that's the talks have been frozen, right? Until we find out what's happening with Jesus. Do you think it's telling that Eddie still doesn't come on even now? So is it that we're just going to sell him regardless of the Jesus injury, do you think?
Yeah, I think we will. I think the whole negotiations are on pause. It's probably a negotiation tactic to
to ask for more money because of
Yeah, like
Jesus'
look,
injury.
look, he's more of an asset to us now with Jesus being out. So chuck another 5 million on. I still think Nketiah will go, but just bringing it back to this game and Martinelli. What did you think of his performance? Because the away end were quite harsh on him, I thought.
Yeah, so he's someone who's one of my favorites from a couple of years ago. I know last year he didn't quite have that year. I think my one criticism of him I will give is that I think he needs the environment around him to be quite perfect for him so far.
Yeah, agree with that.
And he had that before, right? When he had the likes of Jesus with him and they were swapping wings and Jesus would go out to the left, Martinelli would come into the center. He had, Xhaka behind him. It was just, everything was working for him back then. And it just feels like since then, with Xhaka gone, with Havertz now there, like things have changed a bit. And he just doesn't seem to have the confidence, is the word I want to say. So I
I'd
feel
agree.
like if he
His
gets that
confidence does
goal,
look low. Yeah,
yeah, and I think people are so quick, as you say, to pile in on him. But do these same people not remember like Havertz and like when he arrived and it took 20 league games for him to score a goal and like
who was that? Sorry,
sometimes Havertz.
oh,
Now
Havertz.
they'll say, oh, but that's different. There's a reason why he was lacking confidence. We can understand it. He came from Chelsea. It was chaos. But why can't you then also understand it for one of our own? Like, yeah, he didn't come from Chelsea that was a shit show and a circus, but like I just said, like the environment around him changed. So my criticism of him is that he needs to be more adaptable to that change in environment. I think he needs to get a goal for his confidence. And I think big question marks are going to be asked now because Trossard is knocking on that door. I think that celebration and Saliba forcing him to celebrate and him not wanting to celebrate, that was a sign that obviously he's kind of like, well, why am I not starting? He's like
I think
giving the manager a
that's what it
question.
was.
I think it was. Here's a stat, talking about stats. So I don't want to move on to Leandro Trossard yet, actually. So let me just finish off
No,
on
because
this.
I've got a lot to say on Martinelli after you as well.
Fine, yeah. So let's move to Trossard after, but and Havertz. But Martinelli, so yeah, I just think he needs his environment to be too perfect. I do think that, but that is what he's gonna get now. With the likes of Timber, Calafiori, Marino, like I think he will get that better environment he needs to thrive. And I'm just, appealing to all the gooners out there, like give the kid a chance. Like he's 22, man. Like he's got his whole career ahead of him. And 2 years ago, he got 15 league goals, non-penalty, and it's tied with the most goals a Brazilian has ever scored in Premier League history. And he was a kid back then. So we know the talent is there. And my frustration is his decision making. So beyond everything having to be perfect, there was a few moments where like there was one run where he could have just gone into the box and he tried to pass it, and it was like two defenders, and I think it was Odegaard and Saka there, maybe, or Havertz and Saka. So it was like 2v2, and he kind of passed it behind both players. It didn't quite get to Odegaard or Havertz, whoever was in the middle, and it didn't quite get to Saka, and it went behind both. And then there was another one where he did go to the byline, but again, I just feel,
I dribbled it off, didn't he?
yeah, like I feel like he's just lost some of.
I do think his confidence is on the floor right now, for what it's worth. But can I say my piece on him?
Yeah. That was all I had to say.
I've got huge concerns on Martinelli, and I agree with a lot of what you said. I think 2 years ago he had the perfect left-hand side dynamics. Zinchenko and Xhaka would rotate zonally inside and out. Like they were both really competent ball progressors. Martinelli just had to, depending on where Zinchenko was, depending on where Xhaka was, either hold the width, go inside, and the ball would get to him. The one thing I would say is 2 years ago, we were an Arsenal team that caught people by surprise in terms of how good we were. We had a lot more space as a team then. Nowadays, like that 2 years was a long time. We've gone from 2 years ago catching people by surprise, being a top team, to now being the third favourites for the Champions League. We are looked at as one of the top 3 to 5 teams in Europe. As a result, we don't have space in games. Martinelli is someone. Let me talk about something else to make this point. There are certain players in this Arsenal team that, regardless of the opposition, regardless of tactically what we're expecting, they're just nailed in the team sheet, right? Martinelli does not fall into that category. He is someone that only suits a specific type of opponent, in my opinion. And he has got a lot of Flaws is harsh. Developmental areas that he can work on. How old is he? Is he 22, 23?
I think he might be
So,
23 now, but let me just double
okay.
check.
So he is 23 years old. You're right.
Because he was 21 when he had that unreal season I was talking
You're
about.
we have got the best years of him ahead of us. But the window of winning at the top level is also very small and slim. And as much as I talk about the sustainability of what we're doing and how I believe we will be at the top table for years, the margins can swing like no other. Like some team can come into money and they'll be at the top table with us. Right now, I feel confident in saying it's just us and City. I think Liverpool can be up there, but I think they will fall off. I don't think they'll sustain a title challenge. If I look at that Arsenal 11, I look at that left wing area and I think if I ask the question, can we upgrade on a Martinelli or a Trossard? I would say yes. Forgetting emotion, just being purely objective and rational about the situation in terms of what we can add to the team in that area, I'd say that's a weak spot. I think we can absolutely go and get a player that's better than a Martinelli and a Trossard to contribute. Sorry, consistently 90 minutes. Be that powerhouse. And I don't want to displace Martinelli. I don't want to kill him. I just think for where we are now, needs to be more of a rotational option, in my opinion. I think there are certain games that suit him like a glove. I think there's certain games where he's not best suited to it. That's it. Maybe I'm being harsh, but I'm just seeing it from my objective is I want Arsenal to win, but I also want to protect careers, right? I don't want to kill him. I don't want to end him. I think he's someone that can still be that player we were all expecting. I just think there's a lot of environmental factors within the team and also how good we are and the way teams approach us now that don't suit him. And there's things that, let's be real, haven't developed over 2 years. As much as he's been great at getting in goal scoring opportunities, driving with the ball, his off the ball tenacity and defensive work, there's been consistent themes in things we've been saying he needs to improve on in terms of his getting his head up, his passing choices, his decision making. We haven't really consistently seen that. So I think it's a big season for him. I don't want to end him. I would love Arsenal to go and sign a left winger that can be a Bukayo Saka level of it doesn't matter the environment. It doesn't matter the circumstances. This guy is one of the first names on the team sheet. It isn't a headache on who's going to play there. It isn't like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. You know you're getting 8 and 9s out of 10 week in, week out. And I don't think we are getting that from him right now. And again, if we're being brutal about it and ruthless, if you look at the 11 and you ask yourself what position can you upgrade, I think you'd be lying to yourself if you don't say left wing can be upgraded on, if you just take pure emotion out of it, in my opinion. But I still think he has the potential to be a top quality option. I just think right now he's not going to get there by playing week in, week out and giving us what we actually need.
I think you're spot on. So as much as I love him and I was defending him, I do think he is not a guaranteed starter as it stands, and he shouldn't be. I think it was Clive from Arsenal Vision. I think he was a guest on Arseblog last week even, and he essentially said that he said something along the lines of it will be interesting, waiting for Arteta to have that conversation and sit Martinelli down and be like, "Hey, Gabby, I've signed someone. I've signed a big player like a Nico Williams, right? And I've signed this guy. And you're no longer guaranteed to start anymore. But we're going to win stuff now." And that's what Clive was saying. Like, that's
maybe that takes the pressure off him as well. Maybe then you can sit him out in the games at Villa where it's going to be tough. Your decision making has to be spot on, but then give him the game against Leicester at home where that's a game where he can build his confidence up. I think I've been so bullish and consistent on, I think we're an attacker light from being able to go and can we challenge for the league? Sure. The difference between me being confident in us winning the league is an attacker. And I think that is shaping up to be a left winger, in my opinion, in terms of where we can take it. And also the Champions League. I said in the preview for the season, I didn't think we'd get beyond the Champions League quarterfinals because the one thing I thought we lacked last season was individual quality in the final third. I don't think we've added that. So how can I be more confident in progressing?
No, that's totally fair. I know in the interest of time, we do want to talk about some of the stats and Q&A. So let's, it's been a really nice conversation. I think we've obviously not done a review together since last season. So it was bound to go over the 1 hour mark we aim for. But hopefully people are enjoying it. There's been nearly 20 concurrent live viewers throughout. We've hit 250 subs. So thank you all so much. All the new
Thank you, guys
subscribers.
and girls.
Yeah, we're really happy about that milestone. So let's the players I guess we want to talk about really now
Go
are
on, let's
probably
rattle through. So
Havertz and
Havertz,
Trossard.
Trossard, and Calafiori.
Okay, so
Go on.
Havertz.
So let's say you get 30 seconds on each. Go.
Yeah, these are quick fire. Fine. Okay, so Havertz. Yeah, like I just think that he's quietly going under the radar as like currently in the Premier League. His underlying numbers show it all of 2024 since he moved to forward. He's one of the best forwards in the Premier League. Like you might not like it. Some people might not want to say that, but underlying numbers show it. Like I'm sorry, but he's just doing it. Like he has like 20 goal assist contributions in like 15 games as a striker. Like now for this game, so that was just on him in general, but this game specifically, there was one opportunity I seem to remember that I thought he could have done better. Like there was a
I think
few.
it was actually Martinelli that crossed it in, and he
So
made a
he
nice
ran
run to
in.
the near post.
Exactly, yeah. So he ran in, he made an unreal run. I was like, this is the center forward run. Beautiful.
That was a Giroud run, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just like, and he was onside and everything. It was such a fantastic run. But then, like, he just didn't get the shot off right. And I was like, okay, like, that's fine. Like, that's fine. Like, just give him more chances. But he is our striker. So I had confidence with him going into the season as our centre forward. I don't think we're going to go in for a big centre forward like, people talking about like Sesko before, Gikoris, Osimhen. I don't think that's the type of player we're going to get. I think a striker would be next year. I think maybe Jesus will be on the way out then. Hopefully, Jesus' injury isn't so serious. And then we have kind of Havertz, Jesus, and Trossard false nine as cover here. Maybe worst case Martinelli as well, but maybe we don't move him to another position while he's lacking in confidence. So that said, I'm still quite happy with our strikers, and that's what this game just showed me. It just gave me enough confidence that I'm happy to go into the season with Havertz as the striker, as long as Jesus can stay fit. If Jesus can't stay fit, then I think the winger we bring in needs to be able to play striker too. It needs to be someone to play all three positions. Saka cover, left wing starter ahead of Martinelli to force him to fight for the position potentially. And then
So
that can, what are your thoughts on
why I still just want a specialist left winger? Because I think Trossard is the most capable player of playing the false nine, as similar to Jesus. And then Martinelli can play on the right. This Saka backup's not happening. We're just gonna tweak what we do if Saka's unavailable. So for me, it's a specialist left winger because that's the immediate place in the 11 that can get upgraded. Trossard is very good in central areas as the false nine. He's the closest we have stylistically to Jesus, and Martinelli can cover both flanks, in my opinion. So for me, I'm still crystal clear. Specialist left winger for me.
Fair. And then just any thoughts, 30 seconds on Havertz, and then we'll go to Trossard.
My 30 seconds on Havertz was off the ball. He put in a shift. On the ball, he held it up well in periods. Didn't really get clear chances in this game, but I thought, like you said, his movement for that chance was good. Just unlucky with the contact, but encouraging to see him get in the position. The way he closed out the game, he was a different animal. It's almost like he got second wind out of nowhere, and it's almost like his pressing went up a level, and his work rate was absolutely outstanding. So I thought it was not a quiet performance, but like he wasn't really getting clear chances, right? So he was on the periphery quite a lot, but he found a way to make himself effective. So I thought it was a really nice, again, professional performance from him. And I'm the same. Havertz as centre forward for me, I'm very on board with for most of the season.
I think he's not like the crazy clinical centre forward like a Haaland, of course. But for the way we play our team, our system, I think he brings out the best in everyone around him. So I just really like the way he slots into the team in that sense. And he's like an Arsenal centre forward for this specific era of the rebuild. That's why next summer, I think we will still go again and try to get a major signing.
Trossard again, ole. He does what he does. He's just so good. It was his first touch in the match, and of course, it was the most Trossard thing. First touch is a goal. But I think his movement is so smart. Like you can see when Saka gets to the byline, he moves off the defender. He moves central into the space. His spatial understanding is top quality, and he's just got this clinicalness about him. Like Arteta spoke about efficiency in both boxes. I think we were very yesterday, and Trossard is the epitome of efficiency. I'd be very confident he starts against Brighton on Saturday, because I don't see how you can't, because it's not even just the goal. He then picked up the ball in a nice area to play in Rice, who played in Odegaard, who missed it. He also had a part to play. I may have this wrong. I was going to say he had a part to play in the party goal, but I can't actually remember that too clearly because it came from the right. But yeah, Trossard, super sub, changed the game, and he is, what a signing he's been in terms of goal contributions, just outstanding. And yeah, I think he has to start on Saturday, because it would be incredibly harsh if he doesn't. Anything from you on him?
So I just want to add the stat. So
Go on.
So Leandro Trossard has scored as many non-penalty Premier League goals as Cole Palmer since the start of last season, 13. Just
If I
put that out
speak.
there.
If I
Yeah,
speak.
if I speak, exactly. So I just wanted to put that out there. Like, yeah, I have been backing Martinelli to start. I think in preseason I said I thought he would start, and that if he didn't quite do what he needed to in the first few games, he would lose his spot. I think that time has come, unfortunately, for him.
Yeah, and it's okay. Like, again, it's after Brighton. We've got 2 weeks off. We then have Tottenham, a Champions League game, and City. So there'll be minutes. It's just in the here and now. Trossard deserves a start against Brighton. That's all. Final
Yeah, I
player.
think it's about deserving it. Calafiori then. Any thoughts?
He became the 903rd player to play for the Arsenal men's team.
Wow.
What a cameo. He he's someone that got involved in a bit of handbags, didn't he? And they were trying to, I think it was Conser was trying to drag him, and he was just walking away like, yeah, mate, try to get near me, I dare you. But he just looks like a unit, don't he? And very front-footed, very aggressive, very comfortable on the ball as well. I really encouraging cameo.
He's very calm. Also, the one thing that I remember is I saw the clip after. I've got the video in front of me now, actually. There was like a moment where they were trying to piss him off, I think. They were just trying to like provoke him. And they were like, I think it was when he pushed Emi Martinez or something. And then like he got pushed back by multiple players and they all started crowding him. And he just kind of like shook them all off, turned back and stuck a thumb up.
I didn't see that.
I was like, this guy can't be rattled. He is so calm.
Ciao.
Yeah, he just like enjoyed pushing. There's like a little bit of pushing each other around, a little bit of a scrap, and he's like, yeah. And then he just left. So yeah, I'd love to see him. I think he is gonna rattle people because he's the kind of guy people will try to rattle. I mean, he'll just kind of like flick his hair and smile, and then they'll be like even angrier at him. I just there's something coming from him. I'm so excited to see. On that note, then, not talking about players that didn't play, but did you see the video of Zinni? And it's become like a meme, and they're like,
I haven't. No.
Oh my god, go look at the video of Zinni on the bench, looking absolutely livid. And then like Arteta's like a few meters in front of him, walking around.
When was this? What part of the game?
I think it's after he realized he's not getting subbed on.
All right.
I think it's once he saw like Calafiori went on, and then like, he's like, yeah, I ain't getting on here, you know. And he just looked so serious. If you saw it in the chat, let me know what you guys thought. But it's become a full-on meme. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, obviously, I think Zinni has a big part to play still this season. I think mainly at the Emirates against teams with a super low block, he can help us unlock them. I just like having lots of players that we can use based on the opposition. So I'm not one of these guys who just because I like one player, like say I love Timber, I'm not going to just turn and insult my other player in my team in Zinni. Like,
no, same.
Yeah, I just don't get that mentality. So yeah, I just wanted to say that was quite funny. But yeah, let's go to the stats, I think, because we talked about all the players that we wanted to.
Yeah, and even this, we don't need to spend too long on it. It's just...
I guess we've covered most of it anyway, right?
I think so, yeah. So this is from MarkStatsBot as well. And for audio listeners, again, it's a graphic showing the cumulative expected goals and the cumulative expected threat. And according to this model from MarkStats, Villa edged the XG. It was 1.34 to our 1.17. Obviously, a lot of that would have been Watkins' chance in the first half and the header, right? So I think a lot of that would have come from that. The threat, though, was consistently Arsenal. And that's the metric I look at as more of a sustained look at who's more likely to score and get good chances. So we had 1.51 to their 0.77. Possession was 60% to their 39.8. Field tilt 64.9 to their 35.1, and defensive action height was 41.5 and we had 54.2. So even field tilt, I thought, yeah, we played in the right areas quite a lot. And yeah, overall, it was a game where I know Villa won the expected goals. And yeah, we've said this already. They're the best chances of the game, but we still were consistently threatening and getting in the right areas, and we still created enough to win the game. And yeah, Villa didn't take their chances. We did, but we, like I said earlier, we managed the game in tough periods incredibly well. And I don't think there's many other teams that would have left that exact 90 minutes replayed. I don't think there's many other teams that would have left with 3 points. So that's what I said. That it was a champion's performance. Very proud of them yesterday. Incredibly proud.
Absolutely. We'll keep going. I put the passing networks in. So this is 1
I
hour
think
14 if anyone in the podcast wants to come to it. But I don't know if there's really much to add. Like, again, we've covered nearly everything. But anything you want to call out?
no, just I think we covered all of it without the visual illustration in terms of how we built, who was available, the certain pods and stuff. So again, you timestamped it if podcast listeners want to come back
Yeah, just a
and
shout out
listen.
to
But
canonstats.com. Obviously, Scott Willis, this is his data. So the previous one was MarkStatsBot, as you mentioned. This is the last one. We kind of covered this earlier in the show as well, the ball progression and carry. So if anyone wants to come back to this, I have timestamped it. Anything on zone 14 and half spaces? My only takeaway from this was that they played in similar areas to us, just not as many times in the half space, 20 to our 55. But ultimately, I have not seen many opponents in a review get this many zone 14 and half space passes against us. Normally,
well, I
I
think
just see us doing it, and then like the opponent has like 3 balls in the fucking graphic. Here we are, and I'm like, oh, actually, Villa are a really good team.
well, and I think a lot of that was Morgan Rogers. They Villa obviously set up, like we said, out of possession 4-4-2, and they tried to hit us on the counter, and they managed it. There were periods where they had a lot of green space to run into, and Rogers was central to that. So that's why they got in to us. But from our perspective, it was yeah, you can see that kind of right side bias from us was heavy in terms of Saka, Odegaard in that right half space. We didn't get into the central areas too often, but again, Villa sometimes sometimes there isn't a solution to something, and you just have to say the opposition set up tactically spot on, and we did what we needed to do to get the win. There's not going to be many teams that are capable of setting up and executing a game plan like Villa did.
Yep, no, totally right. Agree with that. So, just any comments? I'm going to pull up just some comments from the chat before we get out of here. So, you've already shouted out Bungle and Mike Halpin for tuning in this morning. Thank you guys for being first here. We've got a Tommy Gunn, morning, everyone. We've got Mike Halpin saying it's a big fuck off away win. We talked about the boiling piss already. So, who else do we have? We have Plonker. Good to see you. Morning,
Nice
all.
one,
Missed
mate.
the game
Hope you're good.
yesterday. No need to catch up on everything. No better place than bite size. Oh, so need to catch up. Yeah. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. We had a new viewer who subscribed and then unsubscribed in the space of this show. So we're back down to 249.
49.
Yeah, 170 Gunner was asking, is this an Arteta out channel? I guess every channel that shows up on their home feed, they log in and ask, is this an Arteta out channel? He then
Sadly,
actually
we are
says,
not. We are too
sadly we are
positive
not.
around here.
They write in all caps for anyone in podcast, Arteta has ruined Pepe and Trossard is Arteta out. Okay. So Bungle says the bite size is first troll. Boys, you've made it. Yeah, I don't really know what to say if someone's talking about Pepe in 2024. Like, I think you need to get a look at that, mate. So this is an actual question from Bungle the Gooner. Playing devil's advocate, say no forward comes in and this is us till January. How optimistic would you be about the season ahead? I said that as long as Jesus stays fit, I'm very confident, right? But that was based on a winger coming in. So actually, if it's as it is now till January, I'd be
That's
a
a
bit
smart
worried.
question.
Yeah,
That's a
I'd be a bit
smart question
worried, dude.
because until January, so like I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say that means we get someone in January, and then I'm like, okay, the second half of the season is where the schedule will get tough. So, do I think we can get through to January? Yes. Do I think we can? But like just, and that's with like a lot of things falling our way. Do I think? How optimistic would I be about the season ahead? Nah, not very. I think for me, we had clear areas we needed to improve on, regardless of what happened in terms of injury. And I think one I've been very consistent on was we are an attacker light from being able to take ourselves from a challenger to a we're winning this league, to take ourselves from a Champions League quarterfinalist to we can get to the final. And until we add that, I'm not going to change my mind.
Fair. No, that's fair. Yeah, I think I'd be kind of worried too. So Troy Arsenal was new today, I think. FC Mitchell.
Yeah, welcome, mate. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in, buddy. I love the graphic with the flames behind the Arsenal crest there. So, yeah, they said that we need a new attacker, right? Well, preferably, so we covered that earlier. But I just want to give a shout out, just making sure we not missed anyone who tuned in live, and say thanks to everyone. I even said thanks to the Lee Gunner burner in here, but
I actually saw Lee Gunner yesterday.
No
I
way.
didn't say hello, but I walked past him.
Fair play to him. He goes to all the games, right? Like, I'm not gonna argue about how people can choose to show their fandom. It's not my place to say, but yeah, I have no beef with anyone. All Arsenal fans are family to me, even if they have different opinions. End of the day, that's the beauty of it, right? It's all opinions. Me and you disagree a lot of the time about stuff too. It doesn't mean we're gonna sit here crying about Clayton out, and I'm a Clayton out pod. Like, what the fuck, guys? Like, grow up, man. Anything else? Just seeing a couple of funny comments. So they're talking about Calafiori, I think. So Mike Up saying, can't wait to see him play against Spurs. Bonka was saying, impressed how good his weight of pass was from what I saw.
Very, yeah.
Mike Up, and imagine Romero rattling him.
I think Romero is one of the easiest players to rattle in the league.
He is. Oh yeah, he does live in Spain, Mike. He's one of those Brexit guys who doesn't actually live in England. But FPL Plonker, thoughts on Ademola Lookman rumors? I strangely like it, but maybe blinded by seeing him as the right-footed Saka.
Do you think he is comfortably better than Trossard and Martinelli?
No.
So you know what I said? There's certain players that are like first name on the team sheet. For me, Lookman falls into that group of a Trossard, a Martinelli, a Tomiyasu.
I think he does.
Timber.
He's not a Nico Williams.
He's not Saka, Rice, Saliba. That's the level I think we need at left wing. So no from me.
So no for you. I also think it's unrealistic because they're saying something like Kiwior plus money. It's not happening. I don't think it's happening. So before we leave, just a couple final things on that. What are the players you've seen linked that you think are realistic? Because someone in the chat was saying Nico Williams wants like 350k, etc. I think he's on just over 200k at the moment. I think the release clause is there, right? So that you show up to La Liga HQ with the briefcase of money like we did for Thomas Partey all those years ago. And as long as the player says, yes, he's yours, right? But it sounds like the problem is getting people out of Athletic Bilbao. I think
it's just like it's the wages. And yeah, to be fair, you are right, actually. A lot of people are, because they're born, and I think he was born.
They're all Basque players, right? So it's like that is one of the few clubs.
Our manager's Basque, so
yeah, I know, but he just rejected Barcelona this summer and took on the number 10 shirt.
Yeah, I don't know. It's in terms of actual
like would he leave? I guess this is the true test of like, if Arteta can convince him that if we pay your release clause, will you come? And he says yes to us.
He's my number one choice. Like, I think that for me is there's a gaping hole in the squad, and I think he is screaming for it. But why I always say I don't get wedded to player names is because like I'm not a scout. I don't watch enough of world football. Like, I didn't know Calafiori before we got him. I didn't know a Tomiyasu. I didn't know some of these players. So like, I just trust that I know what profile I want. I know the attributes I want someone to bring to the squad, and that is pace, power, being able to be like an exceptional 1v1 dribbler, being able to, in a game like yesterday against Villa, where things systematically are tough to break down, you just have someone that can come up with a moment of individual brilliance away at the Allianz, away at the Etihad. Like, it's so crystal clear for me what we're lacking. And I'm sure there's multiple players that can do that. So I trust Arteta. I trust Edu to have their list of proper targets. I don't know how easy or hard it is to get them over the line, but I think it would be very disappointing if we ended the window without adding another one. Because for me, regardless of the Jesus injury, regardless of Nketiah moving on, I think we needed one anyway. So, yeah.
So
what about you? Do you have any names in mind?
I agree with you. I think Nico Williams is the guy I would want. If he was to not be able to be convinced, word is coming out amongst the agents out there that Barcelona are in serious trouble, as they are every summer these years. You know, every player they bought last summer, they've sold or loaned back out this summer. So, you know, what a car crash of a way to run a club. But anyway, that's a different story. Gundogan was their number one target last year, and they're just giving him away for fucking free back to Man City. What a joke of a club at the moment. But that aside, they need to register Danny Olmo, and they can't. They just cannot register him right now. They need to get wages off the books. And apparently, they've started putting out word to clubs saying, we would sell Rafinha for like 35 million. Now, I understand he's not as exciting as Nico Williams, but this is a player who's already shown he can do it in the Premier League. And
not off the left, though.
I know, but he could play either side, in my view.
But I think you get. I spoke about wanting an 8, 9 out of 10 off the left, right? I think you get that from Rafinha on the right. I think you get a 6 out of 10 from him on the left. I think he can cover on the left. I don't feel confident in him being that 8, 9 out of 10 off the left, in my opinion.
So you'd want more of like a pure left winger that can cover the right, rather than right now we'd be playing him out of position. Okay, that makes sense.
That's my opinion.
That's why I've floated that out there, because it sounds like, should we not get Nico Williams? Even despite what you just said, I assume if you were told that it's Rafinha or no one till January, then you would take Rafinha anyway.
If it was an opportunity cost of long term missing out on someone, like if it was a loan, sure, but I think that's maybe I would do more of analysis, well, right? I would do more of an analysis to see, but yeah.
If he was loaned just to cover his wages
yes, I would.
Then yes, but you wouldn't want to buy. Okay, fine.
And again, I've not come to the conclusion I wouldn't buy. I just need to think more about what does it actually mean long term.
And what is Rafinha like now? Like, I know he still played well for Barca. I saw him a couple of times in the Champions League, but I've not monitored him as much as when he was at Leeds and I was watching him week in, week out. Cool. Okay, well, this has been a great episode. Good to see you, Clayton, as always.
Yeah, likewise. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. Has been, over 10 to 20 people concurrently watching the whole episode. It's been amazing. I think we'll be back on Friday to preview the next game against Brighton. 12:30 kickoff on the Saturday. And then it's an international break again. I can't believe it. Football just came back, and then it's like another break for 2 weeks.
Taking it away for shitty England.
Yeah, I know. It sucks, man. But it was a great win. At least this was a huge celebratory weekend. Enjoy, if you're in the UK, your bank holiday weekend and the extra day off work tomorrow. Thank you, everyone who tuned in live. If you're new, please do subscribe to help us get back to 250 that we celebrated mid-show and lost. And if you enjoyed this episode, please do consider hitting that notification bell so you're here for the future ones. Yeah, anything you want to say before we say bye to everyone, Clates?
Yes, same as always. Thanks as always for all of your support. On to the next one. Up the Arsenal.
Come on, you Gunners.